We are going to talk about 2 weeks worth of sales in today's video, and they were pretty average. Not as amazing as 2 What Sold videos ago, but definitely a little bit better than the last one, so stay tuned. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller on a few different reselling platforms, and in today's video we're just going to be talking about sales that I made across 3 of those platforms, Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari, and I would say it was a pretty average week of sales. I put in an average amount of work, and yeah, I feel like the outcome, therefore, was average. But what we'll do is we'll talk about everything that sold. We'll talk about where I picked up those items, how much profit I made per item once you subtract the cost of goods, once you subtract any fees that I had to pay for any of the platforms that I sold on. So let's just jump right into it. We are going to start off by talking about a sale that I made on October 1st, which was a Tuesday. So again, we started off the week with a $0 sales week on September 30th. But once we hit October, on Mercari, I sold this pair of new with tags, Levi Strauss green utility flex performance modern fit shorts in a men's size 46. I had picked those up at a local consignment store back in May of 2023, and I don't think it was necessarily that they took that long to sell. I actually took a long time to get around to listing them. I think that I waited until this summer, or maybe like a little bit later in like the spring, to list those. So they actually did sell very quickly. It's just that I took a while to get them listed, but they sold on Mercari for $20. I only had $1.11 into those from a local consignment store's birthday sale. And so my net profit on those was $18.89. These kinds of like Levi type jeans or shorts or things that you'd pick up at like, you know, maybe a Kohl's or maybe even like a Target or a JCPenney, while they are not the more popular styles or even like the more popular tier or more expensive tier of Levi that exists, if you can get it for cheap enough and if it's new with tags, to some degree, I find those to be a no-brainer. The next sale, also on the 1st of October, was over on Poshmark. This was a really quick flip. It was this Patagonia Fjord flannel brown plaid button-up organic cotton shirt in a men's size large. That I had picked up at a Plato's Closet not too long ago, like earlier this year. I had $3 into it. It sold for $25, and my net profit was $17. And I probably had that listed for under a month, I want to say. Very quick flip, and it makes sense because this is definitely the season when that kind of stuff is selling. And then on the 2nd of October, I had 0 sales. I also had a choir concert that day, so maybe that worked out for the best. But on the 3rd of October, which was a Thursday, on eBay, I sold this pair of Reeker Black Toulouse, don't know how to say that word, leather ankle slip-on booties in a women's European size 38. They did have like that anti-stress technology, you know, like good heeled boots for when you have to be on your feet for a while. But those sold for $32 on eBay. I had about $2.85 into those from a local consignment's birthday sale. I went in May and I got a ton of stuff, and my average cost of goods came out to $285. And so my net profit on those boots was $22.93. And again, the best news is that they really didn't take very long to sell, maybe just a couple months. Also on the 3rd of October on Poshmark, I sold this LL Bean green corduroy button-up trucker jacket in a women's size extra small petite. Holy moly, I have had this listed for a good amount of time. I think I got it as part of a reseller buyout like probably 4 years ago at this point. I had $2 into each item that I got from that reseller. It sold for $18 on Poshmark, so my net profit was $12.46. LL Bean is a great brand. It's a great company. They make great pieces, but this was in an extra small petite. And I think that they're definitely more well known for like their winter outerwear. This was kind of an older style corduroy jacket. I'm not surprised that it took a while to sell. And then on the 4th of October, which was a Friday, 0 sales. But on the 5th, which was a Saturday, on Poshmark, I had a few sales. The first one being this Old Navy blue off-the-shoulder embroidered dress in a women's size medium. It had like tassels at the front that you would tie. That one I didn't have any money into because America's Thrift Supply once sent me a bale of dresses, basically like just a big scrunched up thing of dresses in a box so that I could do an unboxing on my channel It was a rough box. There were not a lot of things in there that I could list and try to make money off of. This was one of the very few things. It sold for $12 on Poshmark. I didn't have any money into it, so my net profit was $9.82. And then also on Poshmark, I sold this T by Talbot's pink striped lightweight sweater in a women's size extra small. Another smaller item from a brand that typically does better with larger sizes, but this one did sell for $15. I have had this for a long time. I got it at a local consignment store in 2022, so it's been a while. I only had $2.52 into it, again from their birthday sale, and so my net profit was $9.17. And then I also sold on Poshmark. This was probably the best Poshmark sale of the day. As you could tell, a lot of them were like smaller sales, but this was a pair of Vionic Kalina silver metallic braided crisscross flats. They were like slip-on sandals in a women's size 8. Those actually sold for $30 on Poshmark. I did have $6.25 into them because I got them at a local consignment store during a 75% off sale. It was like a tag sale, so that particular tag was 75% off, and so my net profit was $19.42. But the best thing about that sale is that those sandals, let's see, I picked them up on September 20th. They sold on October 5th. I don't think I listed them the same day, but as you can see, they sold extremely fast. And I remember when I went to that particular consignment store on September 20th, they were trying to get rid of a lot of their summer clothing. In fact, I think summer clothes, summer shoes were all like 75% off on top of, whatever color tag was on sale that day. So I got a ton of like sandals and, just shoes that you would wear in the spring and summer. And I remember being like, I'm just gonna hurry up and list them. Like I do have boots and things that are a little bit more appropriate for the season that we're in, but I'm just gonna see if I can catch any last minute shoppers for this season. Because even for me at the end of September and beginning of October, it was unseasonably warm, like just so hot outside still. So I was just hoping that people would still be looking for sandals and things like that. And thankfully, these did sell very quickly for good money. So, while it makes so much sense to stop listing those kinds of things at the end of September and just focus on, fall shoes and winter shoes, it's okay. It's okay if you want to list a few sandals. Back to kind of a sale on Poshmark. I sold this Tabasco sportswear golf plaid short sleeve polo shirt in a men's size medium. I actually thought this was so cool. I got it for $2 from that same reseller buyout that I talked about a little bit earlier, but it ended up selling only for $12, and my net profit was $7.82. Tabasco is my hot sauce of choice, so maybe that's why I found this so kind of just funny. These novelty pieces can sometimes do really well. These did not. And then moving on to the 6th of October, which was a Sunday, kind of continuing with, kind of smaller sales. On eBay, I sold this pair of Toms. They were like a turquoise ombre crochet slip-on flat. They were in a size 8. They sold for $14.90. That was an offer that I sent out to watchers, and I had $4.57 into them. They are part of a consignment deal that I am doing with a coworker of mine. So basically, if something of her sells for a net profit of $25 or more, I give her 50% of the profit, but if it sells for less than $25, I'll give her 40%. So clearly that was a 40%er, so she made $4.57 and I made $6.85. I also sold on the 6th on Poshmark this Ralph Lauren black plaid full zip puffer vest in a women's size extra small. Ralph Lauren is one of my favorite kind of like more mature bread and butter brands to sell. However, I knew this wasn't going to be the best sell, mainly because it's in a little bit smaller of a size and it had like a faux leather trim throughout. And there were some spots where the trim just kind of had some issues. Like it was kind of, like parts of the leather had picked off. So I knew that would be a little bit harder of a sell, but it did end up selling for $18. I had $3.92 into it from a different reseller buyout that I did a while ago, and so my net profit was $10.65. So yeah, I must have had that vest for at least 3 years. 3 years. Moving on to the 7th of October, which was a Monday. On eBay, I sold this pair of Merrill jungle brown leather slip-on shoes in a men's size 7. So a little bit smaller of a size for men, but those sold on eBay, shoot, I don't remember how much they sold for. Let me look. Those sold on eBay for $24.90, and I actually got them from a former student of mine. She moved to Mississippi, and I think she was kind of playing around with the idea of reselling for a little bit. She and her husband went thrifting, found some really cool stuff, and she was like, I'm never gonna do it. Like, I'm never actually gonna get around to listing this stuff. She's like, can I just give it to you? And I was like, absolutely. So those sold for $24.90. Like I said, my net profit on that was $17.98. I do plan on giving the majority of that to her, but that's how much I ended up making on those. And then moving on to the 8th of October, which was a Tuesday, on Poshmark, I sold this pair of Harper Heritage high-rise straight leg blue jeans in a women's size 24. Those were also part of a reseller buyout from like 3 or 4 years ago. Most of those pieces are gone, although you've heard me talk about a couple of them in this video, but I had $3.92 into those, and so my net profit was $4.05. However, I got a message from the buyer after it said that it had been delivered, and she was like, hey, does it say anywhere on your end where this was delivered to? Like, does it say if it was put in my mailbox or on the front porch? And I don't think that we typically have that information as sellers. So I told her, I don't know, like it just says that it was delivered. And I could tell at that point something was up, like maybe she didn't get it, maybe it didn't actually make it to her home, I don't know. And so I did get a message from Poshmark saying, hey, you know, something happened to this package. I think they said maybe like they thought it was theft or something like that. And so they ended up releasing my earnings to me and also making sure that the buyer got a refund. So, you know, not an ideal situation, but I was very thankful for and respected how Poshmark handled that situation. I didn't have to like sit there and fight for anything. Something very similar happened to me on Mercari maybe a few months ago where a package arrived at the person's house empty. Like they just got the poly mailer and the stuff that was supposed to be inside the poly mailer was not there. And there was a note on the package that said, you know, it was from like USPS or something saying, this is not how this package should have arrived. Like something maybe again along the lines of like they suspected theft or I don't know. But it was the biggest headache of my life trying to get Mercari to deal with that situation because they just kept hounding me being like, you have to ship this. And I'm like, I did. The person received it, but they received an empty bag. So like you need to give me my earnings because that's not my fault. And you need to also refund the buyer. Like the case kept getting opened and then closed, opened and then closed. And I just couldn't talk to an actual person at Mercari. It was one of the biggest headaches of my life ever when it comes to reselling. So I was just so thankful that I didn't have to relive that sort of experience when something very similar happened through Poshmark. Moving on to the 9th of October, which was a Wednesday. On eBay, I sold this pair of Levi's 70s high flare jeans in a women's size 30. I thought these were so cool. I got them at a local consignment store for 50% off. So I did have $6.25 into them and they sold for $35. And so my net profit was $24.92. I feel like with Levi's, generally speaking, like there are a few styles that always do really well. These I didn't know very much about, and I did run comps and stuff. I was hoping they would sell closer to like the $40 or $50 mark, but even with $35, I was really happy with that. And those were just really cool jeans. Also on the 9th on eBay, I sold this vintage Gunny Sacks by Jessica McClintock blue satin pleated prom dress in a size 5. This one was a bad buy. I think I just got so excited because it was Gunny Sacks by Jessica McClintock, but as you can see, this is not the kind of Gunny Sacks that gives like cottagecore vibes or like prairie girl vibes. This is like a weird 80s prom, like, I don't know, like, but I just got very excited by the label. And then when I got it home and it was time to photograph it, I noticed that there was a huge gash, like a huge cut or tear in the dress. So I've had this for a very long time. I picked it up at my local Goodwill for $7.99. It sold for $22. That was an offer that I got. And although I originally had this listed for like, I don't know, $50, $65 or something like that. That was years ago, and it was me just hoping against hope that someone would want this like super retro dress with a huge rip in it. Nobody did. So I very thankfully at that point let go of it for $22. My net profit ended up being $9.85. And it's just a good reminder to me, that sale, that you cannot just buy things because of the label. It has to also be a good example of why people love items by that label. This was not that. Like what people get so excited about and love when they see, Gunny Sacks by Jessica McClintock is just that super romantic cottagecore prairie sort of vibe. They're not looking for this, So just because it has that little label on the back of the dress does not mean that I have found something spectacular and worth a ton of money. It was so far from that. So just a great reminder from me to you. And then on the 10th of October, which was a Thursday, on eBay, I sold this New Balance pair of black and white pull-on athletic pants in a women's size small. Those sold for $15.90 on eBay. And I had 80 cents into them from when we were in shelter in place during COVID. I did this big bulk shopping deal with a local consignment store during that time. I had 80 cents into each clothing item. And so my net profit was $7.59. And I only had to wait like 4 years for that to sell. So there you go. Also on the 10th on eBay, my friend Casey came back to shop from me because she's just the best. I know I am not deserving of people like her in my life. So Casey bought 4 items from me. She just paid full price for everything, which again, she's just amazing.
This is my friend Madison. She's amazing. And she drove me here.
And these were 4 items that I had very recently just listed. So the first one that sold on the 10th of October, which was a Thursday, was this Vera Bradley Factory Toucan Party Pineapple and Crab Print Beach Tote. It was like a big tote bag made of faux straw, and it was really cool because there was like a zipper at the very bottom where you could basically like unzip it, and like the bottom of the bag would just kind of like fold out, and then basically there was like a mesh panel at the bottom. It was like a fake bottom. So there was like a mesh panel on the inside on the bottom of the bag. And when you unzipped the bottom layer, then that mesh panel was exposed. And then if you had sand in the bag, you could just kind of sift it out that way, which I thought was such a smart idea. And I had purchased this at my local consignment store for $7. I got it during a 75% off tag sale at that consignment store. And so that item ended up selling for $49.99, which like I said was my full asking price. Such a cool bag. I don't really pick up a lot of Vera Bradley anymore because usually I have to sit on it for a while. And again, that was a little bit of a risk that I took with that one. I purchased it on the 20th of September. Their summer items were at clearance at that time, but I feel like it paid off. I just listed it as quickly as possible, and I was able to sell it within a couple weeks of it being listed. The next item that I picked up, I thought this was so cool. It was this vintage New with Tags Jones New York black velvet belted outer layer in a women's plus size 1X. This one, it was a little outside of the box for me because I don't typically pick up Jones New York. That is, a brand that you can find at places like Macy's and stuff. But I got it because it kind of had like goth vibes to me. I think I used whimsy goth as one of the keywords. It had just kind of like grunge gothic. I don't know, like it just was a very interesting piece. I like that it was lightweight. I like the ribbed detail on it that set it apart from it just being like a solid black piece. But that one I paid $5 for at the same consignment store, 75% off, and that sold for $49.99 to Casey. I also had 2 hats that I had picked up at a garage sale, and I was feeling a little like, I don't know, lacking in confidence in regards to these 2 hats. I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to vintage, and these 2 clearly were vintage hats. The first one was this vintage Highland Home Industries mohair and wool blend Scottish Tam O'Shanter hat. I knew to put Tam O'Shanter in the listing title because of one of you. One of you guys watched the haul video and you put in, your comment, you said, make sure to use Tam O'Shanter in your listing title. So I did, and it sold to Casey right away. That one sold for $34.99, and I had just picked it up at a garage sale on the 31st of August. And then finally at that same garage sale, I had picked up this vintage Beret Basque Deluxe red 100% wool lined hat. I put words like Parisian and chic and classic in the listing title. That one sold for $24.99. I again had $3 into that, and so my net profit on that one was $19.25. And I don't think I told you, but on the previous hat, that Scottish hat, that one I also had picked up for $3, and my net profit on that was $25.72. So Casey, thank you so much for your purchase. I hope you love everything. You got some really, really cool pieces, and I appreciate you so much. On the 11th on eBay, I also sold this pair of Eileen Fisher black 100% silk wraparound wide leg cropped pants in a women's size large. These I had picked up in August of 2024, so we didn't have these for very long at all. I got them again at the same consignment store when a different color tag was 75% off. So I had $7.50 into those, and my net profit ended up being $43.50. So Eileen Fisher is always such a great sell, I feel like. And then if you couple that with the fact that these were 100% silk, even better. Also on the 11th on Poshmark, I sold this pair of Vince Camuto Frederica black quilted leather riding boots in a women's size 9. They were knee high. Those I got from the same coworker of mine that I am doing a consignment deal with. Because those sold for $34, my net profit was, above $25. So she got half and I got half. So we each made $14.81. And I think that's such a great picture of the fact that you just don't know what's gonna sell when. This is clearly more of like a fall boot. This is something that you would wear with like a nice trench coat or like a nice sweater with jeans or like a nice fall dress. But in that same time period, I was also selling, sandals and flip-flops and things like that. So it just goes to show you can list anything at any season and it still has a chance and a probability of selling. And in fact, these I had listed at the tail end of summer in 2023, but all fall of 2023 and winter, they did not sell, and they're finally selling this fall. So there you go. And then on the 12th of October, which was a Saturday, no sales, but on the 13th, which was a Sunday, on eBay, I sold this pair of Guess blue dark wash boot low jeans in a men's size 31 by 30. Those sold for $21.99. I got them from a reseller buyout many years ago, so I had $3.92 into them, and my net profit was $15.52. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of sales, not very many like bigger, exciting sales, lots of smaller sales, but let's talk about my numbers. So on eBay, I sold a total of 11 items, and that was for a gross sales amount of $386.79. My cost of goods for those 11 items was $44.38, and so my net profit from eBay was $226.05. On Mercari, I sold 2 items for a gross sales amount of $71. My cost of goods for those 2 items was $8.61, and so my net profit on Mercari was $62.39, which is not bad. My average profit on each item was over $30, which yes please. And then on Poshmark, I sold 9 items for a gross sales amount of $174. My cost of goods was $38.42, and so my net profit on Poshmark was $105.19, which is pretty bad. That means that my average profit on each item was like a little over $10 compared to the profit per item, over on Mercari. But like I said, a lot of smaller sales. So in total, I sold 22 items for a gross sales amount of $631.79. My cost of goods for those 22 items was $91.41. And so my net profit for 2 weeks of sales was $393.63. I think that the next What Sold video will be even worse because that will cover the time that I was in Hawaii with my family. We took my parents, my mother-in-law, my brother's family. So clearly I was not doing the things that you need to do to make sales. In fact, everything was kind of on vacation mode. But, here we are in Q4, just doing the best that we can. That's all you can do. And hopefully you were able to take something away from this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want more What Sold content, I do have a playlist right here that I will link for you. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.